basically whatever works.
All right, we are recording.
All right.
Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Kevin Herbst, with my friends Ethan Peterson and Miguel Aguayo. Today we are joined by foster care and adoption expert Mitch Mathews. How's your day going?
Very well, thank you.
You're welcome. That's good. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the problems about adoption and foster care, and we will be asking you guys a few questions, if that's all right.
Absolutely, and please consider this my consent to record and distribute this for any school purposes.
Okay. So first question is, how can people the age of 13 and 14 make a change in the world?
How can 13 and 14-year-olds make a change in the world? Kevin, that's a really very complex question. So my initial kind of authentic response is be that change that you want to see. You are at this point not really in a position to effectuate massive changes in the world, but you can be the change that you want to see. And so if you want the world to be a kind and honest place, be a kind and honest person. And that's really all you can do at your age. And then obviously, work hard in school, get good grades. That's going to provide a lot of opportunities for you to make bigger changes. If you're like a high school dropout, no one's really going to listen to you or you're not going to be able to get in those positions to make big things happen. But if you continue in your education and get degrees and advanced degrees, you can rise to a place where you can make huge changes. And brush your teeth. Take care of your teeth. That's important.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the next question is, when a family is interested in a child in foster care, how do you know that the family is the right fit for the child?
That's a good question. You get to know the family and you get to know the kids. And so what you're asking about is a process that we call matching. And matching it's complex. It's not, we don't have like a stack of kids and a stack of families and then just take whoever's next on top of the pile. With the families and kids with whom I work, I get to know them very well. And as I get to know kids and learn about them and their personalities, and as I get to know families, you just kind of start to see where good matches would happen. And so people with similar interests, some kids, for example, are very much like, I want a mom and a dad and a house with a white picket fence. Some kids have more flexibility and are open to different kinds of families. And so I just have really kind of heartfelt conversations with kids about what their needs and wants are. And then I evaluate families and try and make a good match, because it's not something that we want to, we're not trying on shoes. We don't let families try lots of different kids. I don't want kids to try and experience lots of different families. I want to make sure that we get it right the first time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last question is, during the COVID-19 pandemic, has there been an increase of adoptions or a decrease of adoptions?
There was initially a sharp decrease in my agency's ability to help towards finalizing adoptions. And that's because the courts closed down. An adoption happens. It's not something that a social worker and a family and a kid work out. Like, it's a legal proceeding. And so it has to happen in a courtroom with a judge. And so with COVID-19, when the courts shut down, everything kind of stalled for a few months. But just like you guys are able to go to school by Zoom and you're doing this interview by Zoom, the court is moving forward doing the same thing. And so we're kind of getting back up to because the numbers that we had in terms of finalizations pre-COVID, on Friday, the 13th, last Friday, was National Adoption Day. And so we had 17 adoptions finalized in Washoe County just last Friday. 17 kids found permanency through adoption. And it was all done on the same platform that we're using to talk to each other.
Wow, that's very
Yeah.
heartfelt.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, and as far as, we're figuring it out. Getting to know families used to be easier when we could meet at my office or have trainings in person. And so we've had to adjust and use the technology that's available. Thank goodness for Zoom. I mean, to do all this over the phone would be rough. And so we're still able as an agency to interview families and train them and get to know people and do it this way. So we can't not do it. And so we're figuring it out. I think we're doing pretty good. A lot of jurisdictions, a lot of other agencies in this country, they're still like stalled. They have not moved forward with meeting and recruiting families and meeting kids' needs and having adoptions. They're stuck. And Washoe County is, I'm very proud to be a part of this agency because we're doing it. Just a little slower.
Yeah. So, from the years of 2005 to 2014, the numbers of kids being adopted were going down and up, and the total of them was 525,300 kids that were adopted from those years. So I'm wondering, how long have you been working in the system, and how many kids you have gotten adopted?
So I've worked for the agency for 5 years. And so since, what is that? This is 2015 was when I joined the team at Washoe County. And so that kind of fits in the timeframes that you were mentioning. For less than 2 of those years, I was in the adoption unit. And so it's not just the agency as a whole or any social worker with the agency does adoption. There's a very specific unit within the agency called the adoption unit that handles those cases. And it's a pretty cool unit. I'd say it's definitely one of the more elite units. All the workers in there are experienced and able to carry high and complex caseloads. And I was only in that unit for about 2 years. And so in that time, I don't know, a lot. I'd say probably, that's a hard question, man. I know that I can kind of speak for years. I know that my unit finalized from 2018 to 2019, like 190 adoptions. I think the year before that, from 17 to 18, we finalized like around 200. And so I don't remember how many of those were mine. I mean, there were certain adoption days that I finalized 6. And then there would be, I would go 4 months without, just depending on, the individual cases. And so I'm sorry if that's not a very clear answer. I don't know. Now I'm curious, though, how many I finalized. There's, where I spoke to a worker, like I said, 17 kids finalized on Friday. 4 of those were from one worker. And so it's, it ebbs and flows, it kind of comes in waves.
Yeah. Okay. So, when we were doing our research, I found this website, and it said about 6% of the children were being physically and sexually abused. Have you ever dealt with a case like that? And what do you do if a case like that happens?
So you're saying it was 6% of kids who were adopted, or 6% of kids in general were
6% of kids in general
have been physically or sexually abused.
Yes.
And so the question is, what have I ever worked on or with cases that involved that? Yes. Prior to being in adoptions and doing what I do now, which is recruitment and training people and things like that, I did investigations. And so when people would have allegations and make reports to the agency, those cases would be assigned to someone who was we were called assessment workers. And so, yes, I've been in that position where I was the first person to go talk to a youth who someone made a report about, someone, saw an injury, or a child might have told their friend about something inappropriate that had happened to them, and then their friend told someone who made a report. And so, yeah, it's not uncommon, given that the kids and families that we deal with as an agency, there's something unsafe was happening, because we wouldn't be involved with otherwise. And so for you, it's you're quoting 6% of children in general, but I think for families involved with us, it's probably higher, because that's why we were involved. Not to say that every case that we work with involved that type of abuse, but a lot of kids, for sure, sadly.
Yeah, that's very sad. Okay, Ethan, would you like to ask your questions now?
There's more?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, there's more where I
Kevin,
came from.
you're doing a really good job. Thank you. Good job.
Yeah.
And what do you got?
My name is Ethan, and I am currently in foster care right now. I'm also looking for my adoptive home. And well, we have like 2 people who couldn't join right now, maybe 4. 2 were from our project that are currently offline, and 2 are, I think, experts. And I just have a few questions for you, Mitch.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think foster care is mostly important for you?
Again, that's a complex question. It's important because we have a need for families who are willing to be safe places for kids while we work with their biological families. We need families who want to partner with our agency and work with us and work with kids' bio families, because foster care is not supposed to be permanent. Kids are our hope is kids are able to successfully reunify and go home, go back with mom and dad. This whole thing of foster care and us being involved is not normal. It's not what kids are supposed to have safe parents who take good care of them. We're never supposed to be involved. When we are, we want to help address what was happening. Okay. While parents are working on being safe and working on their stuff, we need good, safe, loving places for kids to be. And that's where foster homes come into play. We don't want kids to be like back in the day. Kids would go to like an institution. Kids would go to like an orphanage. It was called like congregate care. It was not good. It sucked. And a lot of bad things happened to kids, and they would get lost in the system. Foster care is like a family. And so we want kids to be in places where they can be kids. Is kind of my kids shouldn't be punished for being in foster care, right? They shouldn't have, really unfair lose out on the opportunity to be kids because of nothing that they did. And so we need families who are willing to love kids, let them be kids, not blame them for the situation that they're in, and work with us towards helping them go back. Now, sometimes, and I'm kind of elaborating on maybe what your next question is, so forgive me if I'm going too far, but sometimes kids are not able to go back with mom and dad. Okay. And that again has anything to do with the kid. It's never a kid's fault if they're not able to reunify. It's, unfortunately, mom or dad weren't able to make the changes that they needed to make in order to be safe. In cases like that, then foster care can be great, but it's not permanent. And so we want to then find adoptive homes for kids, because adoption is permanent. Adoption is forever. And so we want kids to be in a place that just a home, they're family, they're forever family. And then we're no longer involved, and people go on and live happily ever after is the idea.
Yeah. Okay. My next question. Thank you for your answer. Be real with it. So my next question is, So could a foster kid could a foster kid age out of foster care?
Sometimes that does happen, yes. If we are not able to find a forever adoptive home for a youth by the time they turn 18, well, then in the eyes of the law, they're an adult and they are no longer, and they can say, peace out. And it's hard because I guess I take it personally because kids don't deserve that. And it's rough for kids that they call it aging out. For kids that age out of care, it's a rough road. And so, yeah, that does happen. And a lot of kids, the second that they don't have to answer to a foster parent or their social worker, they peace out and think, oh, cool, I'm an adult now. I can do whatever I want. I can vape. I can listen to raunchy music. I don't have anyone telling me to brush my teeth and eat my vegetables. And they hit the wall sometimes and wind up in real unpleasant situations. And so it's important. And the hard thing is, some kids say, I just don't ever want to be adopted. They ask for that. They want that. And I think part of that is maybe it takes some vulnerability and some really, like, I respect the emotional freight associated with saying I want to be adopted. And that takes balls to open yourself up to that. It's hard. And so I think for some kids, it's safer to say, no, it's not for me. Don't even look for a family. I'm cool. I'll just turn 18. But those kids, man, it's the homelessness and the substance. It's like families are good, you know? And I know that just because you turn 18 doesn't mean you're automatically ready to be an adult and know how to keep yourself safe and know how to buy toilet paper and pay the bills and make sure, kids need families. It just doesn't mean that because they're 18, they know how to take care of themselves. And so, yeah, it happens, and it's heartbreaking. And I'm going on too long. Sorry. What I'll say in closing is we do not just tell kids, hey, it's your 18th birthday. Nice knowing you. We absolutely have a ton of support and a ton of services and financial support and educational support. We will work with kids until in their 20s, but it's voluntary. And so a lot of times it's the first time that they don't want to be accountable or don't want to follow some of the little rules associated with that. The kids kick us out, but we can keep and help for a long time.
So, Ethan, I'm sorry to butt in, but when I was doing my research, I read somewhere that there was about 1,000 kids or more currently in foster care right now in Washoe County. So is that a true number, or is it more, or is it less?
That's a little high. We're typically around 700 to 750 youth are in our custody. And so that 1,000 seems a little high.
All right.
Not every single family we're involved with means that we have legal custody. Okay. I'll say even most of the families that we work with, we do so on a voluntary basis. We don't swoop in and take legal custody of people's kids. When we initially get involved, we'll say like, hey, there's some stuff happening. Can we help? And we don't, those are families we work with. But as far as numbers you're talking about, kids in legal custody, most kids don't need to come into our custody. We want kids to stay with their families. And if mom and dad aren't safe, we want to find an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, a coach, a friend. We want to find someone to keep it from coming into, we want what's best for kids. And so to go into a foster home with strangers, we can make sure the kid is safe that night, but like it's to take kids out of their lives, away from their school, their friends, their siblings, their pets, that's hard on a kid. And so as an agency, we really want to make sure we explore any option to keep things normal. We use the word normal a lot. There's a policy called normalcy. And we really want to make sure that kids' lives don't get completely interrupted and screwed over because they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. Miguel, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I actually do have a question. And hello, my name is Miguel Aguayo. I am also in this project, Be the Change. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Mr. Aguayo. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. The question I have is, have you ever had to deal with racism or a racist situation, and how did you go on with dealing with that?
Have I dealt with racism in life in general or through my job?
Through your job, like with the kids and working with people.
I wouldn't. Yes, but not always in like a bad way. And so race and racism is, it's a very real thing, right? And so part of my job now is training people who wish to be foster parents or who want to adopt, right? And so some of the conversations that we have are being aware of the different experiences that people of different races have. If you're a Black dude and you wake up and go out into the same community as I do, you're going to have a different experience simply because of the color of your skin. There's not anything that can be done about that, right? And it's not fair. And I'm hopeful that things are going in a direction that's not the case. But why it's important for me is just one, it's justice is important to me in general, but for people I talk with that want to be parents, people need to understand that if they're going to be parenting kids who are different races, like they need to understand that you can't just say, oh no, the world, it's a safe place and kids need to know how to keep themselves safe, because unfortunately there's some real stuff out there. And so as far as me seeing racism, most of the people that come in contact with the agency, just by virtue of the fact they have big loving hearts and they want to do nice things for kids, I don't come in contact with a lot of racist people. I don't know if that's to the heart of answering your question. As far as what you guys can do, and to speak to kind of Kevin's question in the beginning, as far as, making changes, so much of that has to do with people your age, and you have to be able to discuss it. It's not like it's when people don't talk about it, it's when it becomes more of a problem. I think it's why it's become the problem that it has been. And so I'm challenging like young people like yourselves to just openly discuss that life is different for Black people in this country. Life is different for Mexican people in this country. Some people are low-key racist and hateful, and you can't do anything to change that individual, but you can be part of just the societal change, and it'll eventually start to go away. But not talking about it isn't going to do anything. And so don't be afraid to talk about the differences and that it is real stuff. And, and I'm assuming you guys are all cool, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That was a long answer to your question. Sorry if that went on.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so completely off topic, but the Zoom just messaged me saying that I only have 8 minutes left on this meeting. So next question. I'm not trying to rush it, but
if this expires and if you do have more time, if you need more time, I can.
Yeah, I can do it because I still have a lot of space in my computer.
Yeah, so do I. It's just
I don't think that it's for the space in the cloud. I think it's the 40-minute time frame for the meeting has expired. And so if you need me, just if we're done, Ethan, text me or email me and tell me to log back on, and I will. If so,
all right.
I won't get cut off. All right. In the meantime, carry on.
okay. So our next question is
I figured.
What is it, Ethan?
So why do you think there was like more boys than girls during 2018?
I didn't know that there was. You mean like in care, in foster care?
Yeah, in foster care.
I that's news to me. I don't know why. I think that there's I don't know. That's not a good question. Edit this out. Kevin, take care. I'll cut the commercial.
Why? Only because
Okay.
you didn't know the answer?
Oh, well, you know what? I don't know, but I will tell you from a recruitment standpoint. And so people who are interested in expanding their family by adoption, um, on the real, way more people are interested in adopting boys than girls. And so if you really looked at that data, there may be, and I don't have any like statistics to back that up. I just know I talk to a lot of people, and the vast majority of people are interested in adopting boys versus girls.
Okay. Didn't think Ethan was going to say that. Okay, how did you get so passionate for helping kids in foster care and just helping children in general?
I'm not good at anything else. No, you know what? So that's okay. I never was interested in doing anything in terms of working with people until I was about in the 6th grade. And then I had a really cool teacher, right? And I decided it was the first time I ever had a guy teacher. And I was like, oh, Mr. Harris, like after meeting him, I wanted to be a teacher. Before that, I wanted to go into like banking and real estate and stuff, but had a really cool teacher and thought that's what I want to do. He made it look fun and cool. And so I kind of explored jobs that had to do with education. Like when I was in high school, I'm not able to be a teacher or anything like that, but my older sister owned and operated a preschool. And so my first job was in a preschool because my sister hired me, and I worked a couple days after school. And I was good at it. I enjoyed working with kids, and it was easy. It never really seemed like work, right? And kids seemed to like me. And so that made it easier. And there weren't a lot of other guys working in that area. And so kids always kind of like, oh, it's the school with the guy teacher. That was cool. And so from there, I just always kind of stayed in working with kids. And then I wanted to expand more into families. And I found that the kids that I would typically work with oftentimes were the kids who were kind of the pains in the butt. And I was able to make good connections with kids that were maybe having a difficult time making connections with other people. And so I kind of discovered that I had the word is rapport for you intelligent, wide range of vocabulary having kids here. I would just build easy rapport with kids who didn't really do that well with adults. And so from there, I decided I wanted to be a therapist was the idea. Okay, well, more than being a teacher, I wanted to work specifically with, some difficult kids. And so I explored different professional areas and working in different programs and like hospitals and things like that. And as the more I learned about this system, it was always still working with kids. But then I started to work more with families, and I thought, I feel like I can make a bigger difference if I got to a position where I could work more with families and help families with how they parent and understand their own kids. And so from there, I had a lot of contact with social workers with Washoe County and decided, that looks like a cool place to work. And as far as being able to make changes with kids, I mean, Washoe County is like the apex predator. We're that shouldn't say predator. We're the top of the food chain. I mean, we're the government agency that oversees child safety. And so my goal was to work for the biggest, most powerful agency that you could to make sure kids are safe. And so as far as my passion, I don't know. My parents were cool. I had a really good mom. I have 4 sisters and a brother, and 2 of my sisters are teachers. And so that's kind of, my family's kid focused. And, it's never, it's like, I've always felt very privileged because I get to have a comfortable life and provide for, my own kids doing something that I enjoy. And I feel like I make a difference. And I don't typically like talk like this. I don't like, oh, I make a difference. But since you asked, like, it feels good to do this kind of work. It doesn't feel like work,
Yeah.
Okay. Just a warning, we have 2 minutes left.
Yes, 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Ethan, does your mom want to talk on here?
Hey, Chris, do you want to talk? Do you want to talk?
No, not right now. Thank you.
All right. No, she doesn't.
Okay. So, probably the last question.
I mean, we can,
I think.
if
You're gonna,
Mitch,
you're gonna get cut off, and so I'm gonna leave now, and I'm gonna click the link in like a minute. If is that okay? Because we're gonna get cut off in a second.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
All right.
All right.
Mitch, want to talk to me, or are you still